Now that the NHL regular season has come to a close, we're going to once again play with the NHL Draft Lottery Simulator. From now on, of course, the standings will not change. What team deserves Connor Bedard the most? What team will actually win the lottery and have the right to draft this generational talent? We'll hop onto the simulator, see who that turns out to be, and do a top 10 mock draft coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, today we're going to do another NHL Draft Lottery Simulation. We do have an updated version of the prospect rankings, courtesy of NHL Central Scouting, to take a look at as well, which certainly has impacted some of the choices for my selections here today for sure. So we're going to first hop onto the computer. We're going to go on to the Tankathon.com website. We're going to take a look at the standings. So it's what teams have the best odds of winning. Then we're going to simulate the draft lottery and see which lucky team gets the right to pick first overall and of course second overall as well, since the top two picks are both lottery picks that can be drawn here. So obviously let's see who those teams work out to be. We'll complete a top 10 draft and then we'll see what everybody thinks from there. Okay, so as you can see, we are now on the Tankathon.com website. The NHL regular season is complete now, so of course we know the standings aren't going to change. These are the final standings. So as we know, the Anaheim Ducks went on a pretty significant losing streak, losing the final 13 games of the season, going 0-8-2 in their final 10 games to have the right here to be the absolute last place team with 58 points. So they have the best odds of winning first overall. Number 2 spot's Columbus, followed by Chicago, San Jose, Montreal, Arizona, Philadelphia, Washington, Detroit, St. Louis, and Vancouver. So of course you can only move up a maximum 10 spots. So those are the teams that actually have the ability to jump to the number 1 spot should they actually win the draft lottery. In the number 12 spot, for example, you have the Senators. Of course, that pick belongs to the Arizona Coyotes. That's the only pick in the lottery that's been traded. However, there is protection on that pick. If the pick ends up in the top 5, the Ottawa Senators can choose to retain the pick and bump out that draft or the trade condition to the Coyotes and give them a first rounder next year. So that's a possibility. So what the Senators are either going to end up being number 2 overall if they win the lottery, or they'll end up possibly even moving down. So at the end of the day, the odds are in favor that the Coyotes will end up with that pick, which means they'll have 2 picks in the top 16. That much we know for sure. We jump over here to the draft lottery odds. So obviously this shows Anaheim has a 25.5% chance of winning the draft lottery. That's still not great when you think about it. That's still close to a 75% chance that they won't win, right? So there's not a lot of history with the team that finishes dead last actually getting the first overall pick. It has happened. It has happened a few times. It's not like it never happens, but it's still, even the teams that are last don't have the absolute best odds. As you can see, Vancouver being that final spot that can jump to number 1 only have a 3% chance of winning it. And it obviously goes up in between from there. So let's now jump over to the home here where the simulator is. And let's simulate this draft to see who gets first overall pick and the rights to take generational talent, Connor Bedard. There you have it. The Anaheim Ducks have won the lottery. They obviously have the best odds. But as I mentioned, there's a possibility here that they would not win. But they did today. Detroit wins the second draft lottery position. They get to move up a whopping number 7 spots. So they go from obviously being way down to number 2, up 7 spots. So that's a huge thing. Obviously, the top 2 picks are draft lottery eligible. So let's set up your top 10 being Anaheim, Detroit, Columbus, Chicago, San Jose, Montreal, Arizona, Philly, Washington, St. Louis. So that's what we're going to do for a mock draft today. We're just going to do the top 10 picks. A little bit later, closer to draft time, we'll start doing mock drafts for the bigger part of the first round, maybe even the entire first round. But that's where we are for today. So now let's jump over to the top 10 picks, and I'll give you my selection. Okay, first overall, we have the Anaheim Ducks, and there's absolutely no doubt they will take generational talent Connor Bedard from the Regina Pats of the Western Hockey League. Bedard is 5'10", 185, soon to be 18 years old in July. Had a phenomenal season, putting up 71 goals and 72 assists for 143 points for the Regina Pats this year. Absolutely insane. Had 23 points in 7 games at the World Junior Championships. like I've said before, this guy is competing with the numbers that guys like Connor McDavid put up or better at junior. He is going to be a really special player, generational for sure, franchise-altering talent. Of course, going to the Anaheim Ducks as well. He has tremendous chemistry with their most recent first-round pick as well, Mason McTavish. That should be fun to watch. Still got Trevor Zegras and Jamie Drysdale and other top young talent. He can really help transform this Ducks team and help really mesh with the other young players in the organization. Picking second overall and being very lucky in this draft lottery is Detroit Red Wings. They will be selecting Adam Fantilli. There's no doubt Fantilli, in my mind, will be the number 2 pick in this draft. Played this past year at the University of Michigan, 6'2", 187. Also a Canadian-born player, represented Canada at the World Junior Championships, had a solid tournament, 5 points in 7 games, which is not Bedard-like, but still really good for an underager. Had a phenomenal year at the University of Michigan, winning the Hobey Baker Trophy, 65 points in 36 games. Also appears to be the kind of player who could be franchise-altering. He certainly projects to be a number 1 center in this draft. So the top 2 picks likely going to be in a franchise-altering centerman, although I do think there is a decent gap between Bedard and Fantilli. Although the Red Wings getting this lottery of win and getting number 2 to pick Fantilli, who they can watch easily in their backyard playing at the University of Michigan, is an absolutely phenomenal feat. Of course, no guarantees at this point. We don't know if Fantilli will make the jump right to the NHL or if he'll return to school for another year. Selecting third overall, we have the Columbus Blue Jackets, and the Jackets will select Leo Carlsson, the top international skater ranked in this NHL draft for 2023. He had a phenomenal season, putting up 25 points in 44 games in the SHL, had a real solid World Junior tournament for his country, Sweden, and certainly looked like he's a real solid prospect. To me, he's easily the number 3 pick in this draft for a team like Columbus, who's looking to retool and to win now. They're not looking for a long rebuild. They're looking to use this pick to get a real solid player, ideally somebody who can play in the NHL fairly quick, and I expect them to make other moves to be able to contend for playoffs sooner than later. So Carlson, to me, is the kind of player who could easily be NHL ready, 6'3", 194, which tells us he has the size and strength that should be allow him to be successful. He's a little bit older as well because he's a late birthday. He's a late 2004, December 26th. So he's already going to be 18 and a half years old when he's drafted, not too far from being 19 when the season starts. So ultimately, that's going to be an edge up to be closer to being more mature and NHL ready than some of his draft competition here. Selecting fourth overall, we have the Chicago Blackhawks. I have them selecting Matvei MItchkov, of course, the controversial Russian prospect here, who's gone through a lot personally lately. Of course, for those of you who may have missed the news, his father recently did tragically pass away in Russia. I know there's some wondering how that's going to impact him. At the end of the day, everybody would be impacted personally from a traumatic event in their life like that. But at the end of the day, this guy's a terrific young hockey player. I don't think NHL teams are going to be drafting him or not drafting him because of that. Obviously, the bigger factor here is the fact that he's signed to play in Russia for a few more years, and whoever drafts him is going to have to be patient and wait for him to make the jump to North America. To me, the Chicago Blackhawks are a terrific approach for that because they are a team who's not going to be looking to contend, and they know it's going to be probably 3 to 5 years before they're going to be able to compete for playoffs. So why not take the chance and get this player who at one point was competing with Connor Bedard for a top 2 spot in this draft. This guy is a special talent, a very talented kid. I think he often gets overlooked and bumped down the list because of where he's from. And we'll see if that's worth the risk for Chicago. But to me, if he's available at 4, I'm taking him. Next up, picking number 5 overall, we have the San Jose Sharks, and I have them selecting Will Smith, another American-born player. Will Smith is part of the United States National Team Development Program and has committed to playing next year at Boston College. So he'll be in the NCAA for at least one season. 6 feet tall, 172. Of course, Nude Sharks GM Mike Greer, quite familiar with that territory, will be, obviously likely already has a lot of familiarity with this kind of player as well. Will Smith is already over 18 years of age. He's got an earlier birthday in March. Put up some real big numbers to the U.S. national team program this year, putting up 107 points in 53 games. He also played in the USHL, putting up 42 points in 20 games. So I do think Will Smith is most likely going to go somewhere in that 5 to 7 range, depending on who's selecting and in what spots. But to me, he's a very talented player. Obviously, we're looking at all higher end forwards at the top of the draft, but Will Smith probably a little bit of a step behind the top 3 or 4 players here. But once you get down to that 5 to 7 range, he's probably the best player available. At 6 overall, we have the Montreal Canadiens, and I have them taking another Canadian-born forward here, Matthew Wood. Now, Matthew Wood is now ranked as the 4th highest-ranked skater in North America by NHL Central Scouting on the newest rankings that were just released. He used to play in the BCHL for Victoria and is now a part of the team at UConn in Hockey East. So, obviously, this past year at UConn, he put up 34 points in 35 games. Participated in the last Canada U18 tournament as well, but had a real solid year at UConn and certainly impressed a lot of scouts for sure. Now, Matthew Wood, I think, in my opinion, playing at in Hockey East is obviously an area in that part of the country, in the northeast part of the U.S., where Montreal Canadiens scouts and guys like Marty St. Louis and Ken Hughes all spend a lot of time there. I'm sure this is something that they've had their eye on. I think Matthew Wood at 6'3", 200 pounds as a winger, who could put up a point per game status at that level already, would be a player that would be very interesting to the Habs down the road. At number 7, we have the Arizona Coyotes, and their selection will be, in my opinion, Zach Benson of the WHL's Winnipeg Ice. Benson is now the 6th-ranked skater in North America by NHL Central Scouting, so obviously that's a pretty good spot. He's been kind of up and down this year. Overall, in a real solid year, though, putting up 98 points, including 36 goals, in 60 regular season games. Normally a left winger who's 5'9", 163, so size and strength definitely going to be a little bit of a concern here. You're certainly going to want him to ideally grow and get a little stronger if it's possible here before he makes the jump to the NHL, but he's an extremely talented, highly skilled forward. And I think at this stage, the Arizona Coyotes are just going to be looking to take whoever they feel is the best player available. I'm not sure that because they need a variety of things, in my opinion, to make this team improve and be stronger. So I think Benson is a highly skilled player there that would be of interest to them at this spot in the draft. Selecting 8th overall, we have the Philadelphia Flyers, and I have them taking Gabriel Perreault as another member of the United States National Team Development Program. Now, he's actually a player that's technically a dual citizen. His father is Canadian, but of course he's been living in the U.S. His father is former an NHL hockey player, Yannick Perreault, so he's a second-generation NHL player. Of course, Perreault comes in at base 5'11", 165, normally plays on the right wing. Had a phenomenal season this year, putting up 110 points, including 46 goals in 55 games. He's now in his 2nd season with the United States National Team Development Program. The year before, he had 50 points in 51 games as well. He's a fun player to watch, very versatile, has a great way to impact the games in a variety of ways. Strong forechecker, good playmaking winger, and I think this is going to be a player that would be very interesting to Daniel Briere, of course, as well. I think this is going to be a kind of guy that Flyers are going to be looking to take here with this pick. Selecting 9th overall, we have the Washington Capitals. They're certainly not used to selecting this high. I have them taking Dalibor Dvorsky. Dvorsky at this point would be the next highest rated European or international skater in this draft according to NHL Central Scouting. He ranks number 3 behind Carlson and Michkov on the international stage. He's 6'1", 200 pounds. He normally plays center, 14 points in 38 games this year in his league playing in Sweden. Of course, Dvorsky could be a real solid two-way player. I think Washington could go in a variety of ways here. Obviously, they're in a unique spot where they missed the playoffs and are certainly not used to that. I think Dvorsky, in my opinion, is a player who would be ready to play in the NHL sooner than later. I think he's a little bit more size, strength, maturity. They could see him being a good fit into their program there in the not-too-distant future and would be a great player for their middle 6 here down the road. Selecting 10th overall, we have the St. Louis Blues, and I have them selecting Ryan Leonard, yet another player coming for the United States National Team Development Program. Now, Leonard's another player that's been a high riser here as of late. In the latest rankings from NHL Central Scouting, he's ranked as the 5th highest skater in North America. Of course, like I said, he comes in as a right winger, 5'11 and a half, so basically just shy of 6 feet tall, 192 pounds. Had a real solid campaign this year, putting up 76 points, including 42 goals in 49 games. He comes across as a player who can be an impact player. I think in St. Louis has a real solid wrist shot. He's a good skater with good compete. I think he fits the bill for a lot of what Doug Armstrong is going to be looking for in St. Louis. And I think he could be a player within a couple of years' time, playing maybe, if not top line, and certainly second line for sure, with a good offensive impact on the Blues roster. So those are my top 10 selections. Obviously, as I mentioned, today's rankings certainly have changed, and some of the opinions I have on players and what order they're going to go in has been updated here in today's video compared to what we've done in recent mock drafts. Obviously, the Anaheim Ducks were very fortunate to get the generational talent of Connor Bedard today. Obviously, they do have the best odds of that happening, so we'll see. But I'd love to know from you, who do you hope wins the draft lottery? And what do you think of the teams and the selections we made here today? Let me know what players you think are going to go to what teams or what makes good fits, and we'll discuss further down in the comments. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with everything related to the 2023 NHL Draft, and of course all the news and rumors and ongoings of the entire NHL and all 32 teams. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you next time.